Disaster befalls Ron DeSantis' launch, and now the war between Trump and DeSantis is on. Good morning, Boston. Okay, my friends. Ho, ho. Yesterday, highly anticipated, one of the most anticipated campaign presidential launches in recent memory, and it turned into a debacle. It absolutely turned into a disaster. Here is exactly what happened. As you know, presidential candidate Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, it's official. He is now running for president in 2024. He made the official announcement on Twitter. It was done through an interview with Elon Musk on Twitter Space, and it was unorthodox. Usually you hold a rally. You have your supporters there. All the media attend. It's usually, cable news covers it live. And you give a speech. You give your vision. You try to inspire people to go to your website. This is how it's normally done. Ron DeSantis' campaign team thought, let's be out of the box. Let's do something different. Let's do something a little cool, a little chic, show how Ron DeSantis is going to be a different candidate. So, an entrepreneur, a billionaire, David Sachs, hosted an event at the Four Seasons in Miami. There, Elon Musk on Twitter Space to be more accurate, was going to interview Ron DeSantis and then open it up to questions from people who are on Twitter. The goal was to reach millions of people on social media. It turned into a mess, an absolute mess. From the beginning, there were audio glitches. In fact, there was no video, so you couldn't even see Ron DeSantis. All you could do was hear his voice. But even before the event got off, as the host, David Sachs, was introducing first Elon Musk, and then they tried to introduce Ron DeSantis, the audio kept going in and out, in and out. Now, the organizers claimed it was because there were so many people on Twitter that it melted their servers. In other words, DeSantis is too popular, or at least so many people are interested or fascinated in the DeSantis candidacy that it broke the internet. It overwhelmed the capacity of Twitter to be able to hold this Twitter Space interview with DeSantis. Frankly, I don't buy it. Most people don't buy it. There were clearly technical issues, technical glitches, and honestly, it made the whole thing come across as a joke. Listen now to the DeSantis announcement. David Sachs, he's the host of this thing. He's paying for the whole thing. Trying to say, oh my God, look at this. They're melting our servers. But poor Ron DeSantis, he couldn't even get his message out. Roll cut to Mike.
All right, sorry about that. We've got so many people here that I think we are kind of melting the servers.
Okay, let's just, for the sake of argument, let's just say 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 million people. I don't believe it, but that this was, so many people and it crashed Twitter. You weren't prepared for this? You weren't expecting that many people? You guys weren't ready? Didn't you realize this was going to be a major presidential announcement? That there had been tremendous buildup for months and months and months? This is the man who really is the only one with a serious chance, who poses any kind of a serious threat to defeating Trump in the primary. And so, of course, all eyes were on DeSantis. How will he do? What will be his message? What will be his vision? how's he gonna present himself as a candidate? And you guys weren't ready? Seriously? Listen now to DeSantis. Again, the DeSantis announcement. This is David Sachs. Forget DeSantis. When he tried to introduce Elon Musk, who's going to then introduce DeSantis. Already, the audio is they're having issues in and out. The audio starts to break up. Roll cut to a mic.
And even to expose Twitter's past complicity with a government censorship regime might have surprised many, but not those of us who've known and worked with Elon for nearly a quarter century. His commitment to freedom and his willingness to put his money where his mouth is, upset the narrative control imposed on us by our government, elite institutions, and corporate media.
You're hearing echoing and voices talking over each other. And so now here's Elon Musk. So Elon Musk is now talking. See if you can make out what he's saying. Roll cut to B. Mike.
Let's see. So, here we go. Yeah, I think so.
Just to simplify this, I think we're just going to use your...
Yeah, we don't know. And then they're like, there's dead air. And then there's one guy saying, it's quiet here. It's all quiet here. Hello? And then there's some people, you don't even know who the hell they are, and they just start talking. I'm serious. And by the time now, it's past 6 o'clock. So everybody's like, well, where's the governor? This is the man who wants to be the 47th president of the United States. Like, hello, where is he? Hello? Finally, DeSantis is on. And I felt bad for the guy. Roll cut to C, Mike.
Tired dogmas of the past are inadequate for a vibrant future.
Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, everyone, depending on wherever in the world you're joining us from.
We need the courage to lead, and we must have the strength to win.
David Sachs here.
And to voters who are participating in the primary process,
we want to welcome you to this historic Twitter Spaces event, and more broadly, a first in the history of social media.
You can set your clock to January
tonight, I'm pleased to introduce two individuals who've done more to loosen the...
Because on the west side of the U.S.
I mean, this is unforgivable. I'm serious. So there's the poor guy. He's already talking. This poor, DeSantis. He's giving basically his speech or his spiel before he's actually interviewed by Elon Musk. Sachs can't hear him. Sachs is talking over him. Nobody knows. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. So people are like, well, that's DeSantis in the background and he's talking, but I'm hearing Sachs. And Sachs doesn't realize that DeSantis is already talking. Now, look, there are several problems. Is it the end of Ron DeSantis? No. Did his campaign just implode? No. But I think there's no question. When you're going to run on your resume and you're going to run on the fact that you are competent, this is your calling card. You may not have Trump's charisma. You may not have his populist touch. You may not be able to get the massive campaign rallies. But what you can do and what you will do is you are Mr. Competent. You're the guy that, you're efficient, you're effective, you get things done. And you can't even do a campaign launch properly? It is going to tarnish and damage and taint his brand right out of the gate. This, in fact, to be frank, was one of the most disastrous, maybe the most disastrous campaign launch I have ever seen in my entire life. And my recommendation to Ron DeSantis, and I said this yesterday, I've been saying it in private, I said it yesterday on the air, now I'm going to really say it. Fire your campaign team around you. Starting with that loser, Ed Rollins. Ed Rollins is the guy that almost blew the re-election of Reagan in '84. He was the genius who said, hey, we got to have Reagan. He's got to be like a policy wonk. And we're going to cram him with all these statistics and facts. And, oh, my God, he's just going to blow everybody away. And that's just not Reagan. And if you remember that first debate with Mondale, it was a disaster for Reagan. And it was Nancy Reagan who jumped in right after the debate and said, get these people out of here. And she told Reagan, I want Ronnie to be Ronnie. I want Ron to be Ron. In other words, let Reagan be Reagan. Don't tell him to do or be somebody that he's not. My advice to DeSantis, take it for what it's worth. Let DeSantis be DeSantis. Be who you are. Don't listen to these idiots around you, like Ed Rollins, who are telling you, you gotta go on Twitter. Oh, you gotta, no, the announcement. We'll do something no one's ever done before. Ron, we're gonna do it on social media. Just hold a freaking rally like everybody else does. It's not so complicated. Present yourself as the son of Florida. Do your rally from your hometown or wherever you want in Florida, surrounded by your supporters. Highlight your record, highlight your resume, highlight your vision, and with all the media assembled, you deliver a barn burner of a speech, and everybody would be talking about Ron DeSantis today. Instead, everyone now is talking about the opposite. The campaign launch was a disaster. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mike and I were just talking about this off air, and Mike was making a sports analogy. You know, you got to be you. You got to be you. And DeSantis, smart guy, very smart guy, no question about it. Serious. He's a very serious guy. He's a policy guy. A lot of gravitas. Just be you. And, you know, hold a rally, lay out your agenda, talk about what you've accomplished, tell the American people what you want to achieve. And, you know, just, as I say, you got to dance with the one who brung you. Be who you are. As I told Mike, I go, Mike, you have no idea how many times I've had conversations with politicians. And I don't know what it is with these people. I really don't. They all say to me, well, you know, what do you think the key is? I go, the key is very simple. You want to know why Trump pops? You want to know why he resonates? You want to know why Reagan popped? And I can give you, you know, it doesn't matter. Politician after politician, the ones that are really successful, they're authentic. What you see is what you get. Here I am. Here's what I think. Here's what I believe. Here's what I want to do. You like it? Great. You don't? Well, go vote for somebody else. Instead, they overthink things and they become too smart and too cute by half. And last night was, last evening was a classic example. DeSantis is not a Twitter, social media tech guy. I mean, that's not who he is. That's not what he is. So again, it's the Ed Rollins, the Karl Roves, these clowns who are in his ear, and they're like, oh, we'll do something. No one's ever seen this before. We'll do it. You and Elon on Twitter Space. Mike was telling me, Jeff, I use Twitter Space. Even before last night, he goes, there are always glitches on Twitter Space. Always. So it's a relatively new, untried technology. And this is what you're going to rest your launch on? Your presidential campaign launch? Fire him. Right on the spot. Fire him. You out. Just be you, man. It's okay. As I told Mike, you know, maybe the country wants someone serious. Maybe they like a guy with a mastery over policy who's intelligent, competent, smart. Okay, he's not charming. He's not funny. That's okay. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. Be you. And so instead, you don't know who you are after a while. And that's what these consultants do. That's why you get rid of these consultants. I've known every single one of them. They're all losers. I'm telling you. I saw what they did to Jeff Deal, poor Jeff, against Elizabeth Warren in 2018. Say this, don't say this. Phrase it like this. Don't phrase it like that. Easy on this. Let's not mention this. The poor guy's all tied up in knots. And so just be you. Now, let me just say this. DeSantis eventually did start to get his points and his message across. It wasn't just as if it was glitch, and nothing, and he couldn't say a word. No, eventually they did fix some of the technical issues, and it got rolling. It finally did. But by then, the damage had been done. Many people were saying this is boring. This has been a mess. It's been a disaster. It's been a waste of time, unprofessional, not well prepared, not well organized. But eventually, DeSantis got off the ground. Listen now to DeSantis. Roll cut 3, Mike.
Well, I am running for president of the United States to lead our great American comeback. Look, we know our country's going in the wrong direction. We see it with our eyes, and we feel it in our bones. Our southern borders collapse. Drugs are pouring into the country. Our cities are being hollowed out by spiking crime. The federal government's making it harder for the average family to make ends meet and to attain and maintain a middle-class lifestyle. And our president, well, he lacks vigor, flounders in the face of our nation's challenges, and he takes his cues from the woke mob. I don't think it has to be this way.
So in terms of the content of his message is actually quite good. I mean, and I'm going to get more into this throughout the show. In fact, if anything, the attack on him now, and by the way, he was much better on Fox. I saw the interview that he did with Trey Gowdy. Gowdy was horrible as an interviewer. Horrible. I mean, just bad. Just, eesh. You couldn't get a freaking professional? I mean, this is a major interview, but anyway, let that go. The argument now is he's almost like a Trump clone. In other words, he's MAGA. All of his points are MAGA. On the border, on immigration, on crime, on energy, you just run down the list. He's going to fire FBI Director Christopher Wray, he says, on day one. He's going to dismantle the administrative state. He's going to clean out the Department of Justice. So he's talking about, no, I'm going to take on the deep state. So what I'm just saying is, if you look at his actual content, in fact, everybody was saying, why aren't you his VP? I mean, you guys are almost on every point. You're practically on the same page. So, so the content is very good. It's very good. But man, did they botch the delivery, at least in the Twitter space announcement. Now, I'm going to play one more cut on the other side, and then I want to take your calls. Even this cut, it's a good cut in terms of the content, but there were sound glitches. And so his voice is normal, and then you can barely hear him. Now, we fixed it a little bit. You will be able to hear what he said. But throughout all of this, as he's trying to get his points across, it's glitch after glitch after glitch after glitch. And as I told Mike, if I was the DeSantis team, this is what I'm worried about. You only have one chance to make a good first impression. Outside of Florida, a lot of people haven't seen DeSantis, haven't heard DeSantis, and if this is their first impression of DeSantis, it's not a good one. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, the question now that needs to be asked, I don't agree with the answer, but it has to be asked. Did DeSantis' presidential campaign just blow up on the launch pad? I don't think it has. I think he hurt himself. I think there's no question. I think it was a mess. It was a debacle. But is it over? No, it's not over. But man, he's got to retool his campaign team. He's got to get those people around him out. Out. I mean, like today, right now, this morning, start firing people because this kind of stuff can't happen again. It just can't. Listen now to DeSantis. So he's finally able to at least talk. They got the audio working, but by now it's all of Twitter, all of social media is going on about what a disaster his launch has been. Now, we fixed the sound, so it actually sounds better. Think normal voice, and then halfway through, you can barely hear him. We have to save our country. He's almost whispering. That was the audio glitch. Could barely hear what he was saying. Sandy fixed it, so the whole thing is audible. Roll cut 3A, Mike.
American decline is not inevitable. It is a choice. And we should choose a new direction, a path that will lead to American revival.
This also means replacing the woke mind virus with reality, facts, and enduring principles. Merit must trump identity politics.
So, I mean, again, look, if you just, it's hard to even focus on the content because you're like, wow, what? It's so distracting. But if you listen, I mean, the content, I mean, American decline is not inevitable. It's a choice. We need to choose a new direction. Well, okay, well, sure, sounds good, yeah. Replace the woke mind virus with reality, facts, and enduring principles. Merit must trump identity politics. We must defeat wokeism and left-wing ideology. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, Kuhnerman's fully on board. Yeah, okay, yeah, sounds great to me. But ay. Okay, his calling card, what he's known for, and what he's going to campaign on. I am competent. I get things done. As he likes to phrase it, I move the ball down the field. I put points up on the board. That's what I do. Yet he couldn't even do a proper campaign launch. Did he just damage his brand? And how bad did he hurt himself? Is it already over before it's begun? Or do you believe DeSantis can right this ship, turn his campaign around, and wage an effective challenge, at least make a race of it, with Donald Trump? 617-266-6868 is the number. What do you make now of the debacle of Ron DeSantis' campaign launch? Is it the end already for DeSantis, or is there time to recover? Lou in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Lou, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How you doing? I listened to the whole thing, and before I get to a couple of my points, I think it's more of a reflection on Musk and Twitter than it is on DeSantis. I think Musk was like pushing this as one of his big things because he wants to get all the candidates on, and it made him look bad. So I don't put it so much on DeSantis. He's also put out some nice videos. I don't think that the mainstream media was going to give him any kind of slack or cut him any breaks if he did have his launch. So I don't do that. I listened to the substance. The substance was very good. Why do a lot of conservatives think that Trump is such a damaged brand and that Biden is so invincible if he goes against Trump? I mean, Biden, an orange juice can should be able to beat Biden with his record and his corruption. And his family's corruption is so much deeper than the little piddly things they go after Trump for that I think a lot of them are afraid to back Trump. I mean, you got Daily Wire people and stuff like that in conservative side who are gushing over DeSantis. This issue, some conservatives seem to be downplaying it, or some are upplaying it. This issue about taking on the woke, which I think DeSantis is very, very good at. And how big of an issue do you think it is with now that we see what happened with Bud Light and now the thing with Target? I mean, these corporations, he did a great thing on DEI or IED or whatever it's called, and ESG yesterday. He was terrific on that. And how big do you think an issue that is going to be? I know we got the crime and we got the border and we got inflation, we got everything else. But I think there's a stirring in the conservative community that they don't want our minds to be taken over and our kids to be taken over. So I'd like you to maybe talk about that at the end. But on the whole, I think he was pretty good on things like that and on the schools and businesses and things like that. He's pretty much of a nerd. But they left out Ukraine, a big issue. And they left out a couple other really huge issues involved here. I think that on the whole, he's got to really to take on those issues. And I think what he's really got to star in are the primaries. I'm still pushing for the Kuhner country debate and getting the conservative debate up there.
Oh,
in New
we're
Hampshire,
working on that. Believe it or not, Lou. Yeah, that's something we're working on very hard. I can't say too much behind the scenes, but anyway, fingers crossed. I've reached out now to multiple people. We'll see what we can do, but no, I've let it be known to both the Trump and DeSantis camps that no, we're not going to have liberal media outlets and liberal moderators. This is ridiculous. Enough is enough. So it's not going to be constantly lambs to the slaughter where we get set up every single time. No, we're going to have conservatives debate with conservative moderators to conservative patriotic Americans and address their needs and their issues. So, Lou, fingers crossed. I'm doing everything I can. Lou, thank you very much for that call. Look, let me just say this. I saw the interview with DeSantis on Fox, and he does talk about Ukraine. I've got the cut. I'll get to that a little bit later. On the interview with DeSantis on Fox, he was very good. I'm just calling it the way I see it. On content, on issues, he's he's excellent. I'm telling you, he's excellent. On the border, he's phenomenal. On energy independence, on, just run down the list, on inflation, on taxes, on the economy, on national defense, on the military, on woke, on left-wing ideology. I think he's on abortion. He's superb. He's MAGA. It's all MAGA. Now, you may not like his delivery. Some people think it's a bit too whiny. Some people think, as you put it, he's got a bit of a nerd factor about him. Look, he's a policy guy. That's just how he is. And okay, be you. Just be you. Don't be what you're not. So when he was on Fox and just answering questions, he did very well. He's very good. You can see why they love him in Florida. You can see why this is one of the most competent, if not the most competent, effective governor in the country. There's no question. On the issue of woke, I think it's huge. I know for me it's huge. I know for my family it's huge. I know for many people I speak to. Look, take Target. Take Target. I mean, this is beyond, how do I say this? This is beyond sick. They're peddling merch, forgive me, that's the new term. I want to seem like I'm in, I'm not out. So, merch made by a Satanist. They're pushing LGBTQ transgender merch, literally by a Satanist, and promoting Satanism within the LGBTQ merchandise that they're pushing. Satanism. Now, this has led to a massive backlash. Many people are extremely upset. So am I. And they're saying this could be Target's Bud Light moment. Now, to their credit, they have that part of the merchandise they have pulled back because they saw the backlash. But incredibly, Democrats, liberals, leftists, they're attacking Target for withdrawing the merchandise, the pro-Satan, pro-devil, pro-Satanist merchandise. Do you see how sick things have gotten? So when DeSantis says, we got to kill this, I say amen. He's completely right. 617-266-6868 is the number. Now, just super quick on Target, because this is what he calls the woke mind virus that's infecting corporate America, higher education, our popular culture. On that, by the way, there's no difference between him and Trump. They're both exactly on the same page. They're both making almost the exact same points, verbatim. But he's right. DeSantis is right. There's no question. Now, very quickly, look at Target. They then sent out a statement. So I want you to think of this. They're pushing transgender merch, right? I think that's the cool way to say it now. Transgender merchandise, aimed at kids. Pro-LGBT transgender merch but with a Satanist twist, with Satanist symbols. I'm not kidding. And the merchandise was made and created by an avowed transgender Satanist. And when parents, families are outraged, saying, what? Like, this is the kind of garbage now we're going to have to confront when we go to Target, Target? Like, this is the kind of sick stuff you're trying to ram down our throats? And so there was outrage. They wrote emails. There was pushback. Well, in the statement, it's a stunning statement. Target comes out and says, basically, because of threats from conservatives, we had to pull back the merchandise. You know, just the pro-Satanist one. First of all, what threats? What violence? Yeah, well, there was a possibility of a boycott. You better believe it. This was going to be another Bud Light. But this is the sickness. I mean, it's almost beyond sick. It's demonic. This is absolutely demonic. So when DeSantis says, I'm going to use the bully pulpit, I'm going to go after woke ideology, I'm going to hammer him and hammer him and hammer him, yeah, you better believe it, it's effective. And of course, Trump is saying the exact same thing. Now notice, there's only two candidates that are saying that. Trump and DeSantis. Nobody else. Nobody else. Why is that? Is everyone else afraid of the woke mob? They scare you that much? We are now talking about Satanism. They're trying to mainstream Satanism to our kids. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. 617-266-6868 is the number. By the way, Target, they lost me and they lost my money. What they did and that ridiculous statement, I'm never shopping there again. Get lost. Sickos like you, I'm not putting money in your pocket. John in Florida. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, John.
I listened to the Twitter feed last night, and yeah, there was some glitches and everything, but as far as I can see, Ron DeSantis is attracting more white suburban women than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is like a bad Carfax. I feel bad for him. They've done the damage to him. But now, white suburban women are going to make the decision of who's going to be the next Republican nominee.
Well, John, let me ask you this: what the launch itself? You think it's going to hurt him? You think it makes him seem like? In other words, the rap now on him, at least for now, is he's not ready for prime time. That it may be Elon Musk's fault, it may be Twitter's fault, but that was amateur hour, and that he, you only have one chance to make a first impression, and that he put essentially his campaign launch in the hands of people who clearly didn't know what they were doing, shows that Ron DeSantis is just not ready yet for the big leagues, and he's just not ready for prime time. He may be a great governor. He may be great down the road, but he's 44 years old, and that basically it showed yesterday that he's just not ready to play in the big leagues. What say you?
Well, I think as the campaign goes on and the more exposure he gets out there, he will be, more looking more like what he's capable of. With this woke ideology, he's already proven it in Florida. He's done something about it. Trump hasn't had to experience that 100% on his own. So my belief is that, again, the white suburban women are going to go to a squeaky clean, married guy, no issues, no baggage, no bad Carfax, versus Trump. That's my opinion.
Interesting. John, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Well, see, that's the other thing. Look, I'm just speaking objectively now, right? He's got a very attractive wife, very attractive family, 3 young, beautiful kids. He's got a great biography. How do you not roll that out at a rally? Like, I'm sorry, but this is just a no-brainer. I mean, you announce you're going to run. Every TV camera on the planet is going to be there. It's going to be carried live by all the cable networks. It's going to lead the nightly news. It's going to be front page everywhere around the country. I mean, come on. You bring your wife out. She's a breast cancer survivor. I mean, I could just go on and on. You bring the 3 little munchkins and you lay out your case to the American people. Instead, you do it on Twitter with Elon Musk. And it's got technical issues. And by the way, you can't see anybody. There's not even a visual. It's just audio. And it wasn't just the glitches. People on Twitter Space, on their accounts or whatever, literally it said they couldn't hear it. Audio not available. Details to come. So people are like, they're not hearing anything. Forget the glitches. They're not hearing anything. Ay. He's got to fire people this morning. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but he's got to fire people. Start with Ed Rollins. Believe me, this guy almost screwed Reagan in 84. Get rid of these guys because I'm telling you, they're going to turn him into a joke. 617-266-6868 is the number. Tony in Gloucester. Thanks for holding, Tony, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. I have 2 points I'd like to make. I'm going to blow some things up. It's all like you said. I call in saying it. They're all running on the MAGA agenda. MAGA agenda without Trump does not work. And I'll give you the prime example. The art of the deal. All these foreign countries that Donald Trump dealt with for us. He knew how to get what we wanted for America first, but still keeping the relationship. In other words, respect. Look at Saudi Arabia. You remember when Trump went to when they invited Trump to Saudi Arabia? He could have bankrupted Saudi Arabia. They treated him like a king. I remember you went on about it in your show too. Okay, that is one of the biggest part of the MAGA agenda is Trump's ability to make deals with people where we come out first and we are respected around the country. And the other big thing I want to say about disaster, as Trump quickly branded him last night. All of these people running against Trump are all backed by rhinos. I have to disagree with you. Ron is not going to be able to fire anybody. This is the rhinos have their money on all these candidates. DeSantis is the main one, and he's going to do what they tell him. And if he goes down, they'll pull the money. Already we had one guy pull his money out. This is all about get Trump. Okay, and they're trying to put anyone. They got all these eggs that they're trying to see who's the best that can beat Trump. And we've never been in a position like this before. It's worse than ever. Everyone should be backing Trump. I'd have more respect for these people if they came out and said, my money is behind Trump. We got to get Trump back in office. I will never trust Ron DeSantis. I will not vote for him if he runs again. He has proven to me that he's just a paid-off rhino. And I will never, ever trust him. And he will not be the vice president. Trump has already had one Judas to stab him in the back. He won't need another one.
Well, Tony, look, you're making some very interesting points. Number one, I completely agree with you. Trump is the art of the deal. It wasn't just Saudi Arabia. It was Russia. It was China. It was North Korea. It was Iran. You can name a country, name our adversary. They respected him. They feared him. And he made deal after deal after deal that benefited the United States of America. And that's, again, why I'm backing him all the way in 2024. But, Tony, I do want to ask one thing. Trump, to me, is a bit like Reagan. He's taking over the party. And not just him, his personality, but his agenda, his vision, his policies, the America First movement. The one thing I don't quite get is, don't we want people like DeSantis, as an example, The way we had people saying, you know, I'm a Reaganite. I'm a Reagan Republican. I'm a Reagan conservative. And that gave us Newt Gingrich. And what I'm saying is his influence will outlive him. So in a way, don't we want the Republicans to become MAGA? So isn't it in a sense a compliment to Trump? If DeSantis is going to be mimicking many of his policies, and, you know, his argument is just, well, I'm MAGA, but without the baggage of Trump. That's essentially what he's arguing. Why is that a bad thing? I mean, I want Trump, don't get me wrong, but isn't that a sign of his success? In other words, it's his party now. The only guy that can pose any threat to him is DeSantis. And DeSantis is running as a MAGA Republican. I mean, on the issues, he's running as a MAGA Republican. So isn't that a good thing ultimately, Tony? I'm just curious. What do you say to that?
Here's what I say to that. We're on the cusp of Marxism here. I mean, they're trying to take over. And I see all of these people now as dividers. I mean, as simply as dividers.
So, Tony, in other words, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what you're really saying is, again, if I'm wrong, please tell me, that, yeah, they could mouth the MAGA lines, but the conviction is not there. In other words, ultimately, it's the donors who pull the strings. So they may talk MAGA, but they may not walk MAGA. Is that what you're saying?
Or to put a little funny twist on it, why would you buy a generic cola when you can have Coke, the real thing? Right? Right, Jeff? I mean, that's what we're seeing.
Tony, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Anthony in Michigan. Thanks for holding, Anthony, and welcome.
Dr. Kuhner, some great callers this morning. How are you, my friend?
Very good. How are you, Anthony? What's on your mind?
Oh, a lot of stuff. Boy, where do I begin? Some of those guys stole a little bit of my thunder. I think DeSantis is done. Do you remember when I called you after Ted Cruz pulled that stunt with Carly Fiorina? And you and Brittany were laughing because I said, you know, he's so done, he can't even get a job as a used car salesman in Boca Raton. I think that DeSantis really stepped in it here. You know, I want him to be my governor when I retire, but when you've got Jeb Bush backing you, frickin' Soros likes you, and, you know, that's it. And Paul Ryan, how can I truly believe this guy is MAGA? The only people I'd like to see Trump on the ticket with is either Carly Fiorina or Rand Paul. Now, in terms of wokeism, this is a big deal, Jeff. I've been listening to Barris. By the way, this vaulted, suburban white women, apparently Barris says they're coming back to Trump, especially here in the Rust Belt. And the numbers are huge for a subsegment that I never thought would go for Trump. African-American women. The number's up to 22% for Trump. Jeff, the country's waking up that what Biden has done in his team, he screwed us so bad that they're begging for Trump. I'm Trump or bust. The Trump or bust number right now, Barris says, is 18.9%. Let's call it 20%. If it's DeSantis, I stay home. Why? He's shown his colors, Jeff. He's just another Jadrul at this point. You know, he knew he could have had the VP slot. These rhinos put a bug in his ear and they played on his ego, and he's doing this. And here we are. On the wokeism, Barris said something, and I've been feeling this for a long time, that one of the people on one of his surveys basically said, I'm tired of being treated like an enemy, if you will, that we're always being attacked by some sort of organization, three-letter organization with an agenda, and that you're the bad guy. And we're all sick of it, Jeff. I'm sure you are. That's why you and your family are not going to Target anymore.
Oh, it's outrageous. I mean, it really is. I mean, and Anthony, thank you for that call. It's disgusting. It really is. I mean, like, come on, man. Like, you know, like, really, Satanism? Like, this is what I got to deal with now? I want to, take Ava to buy some clothes or Ashton to buy some clothes at Target. You know, they love to go to Target, or they're not going anymore, but they used to love to go to Target. And I mean, so now this is the kind of stuff I gotta deal with when I go shopping. This is outrageous. I mean, this is, I mean, really, it's demonic. It's satanic. It's literally now satanic. They're pushing Satanism. So, do I think it's going to be a massive issue in the election? You better believe it. Do I think it's going to push a lot of voters into our side? You better believe it. And the amazing thing is, I've never seen this before. They love losing money. Bud Light, they lose money. They don't care. Target, they're losing money. They come out and say, well, we have to pull it back, but the conservatives made us do it. They're threatening us. Threatening you with what? We're just not going to shop it. We're going to boycott Target. We don't have the right. No, we have to just stand there and smile and laugh and say, pervert my kid a little bit more. Put more sick ideas in my kid's head. So, no, I think there's no question. The war on woke ideology is going to be huge. Now, look, I do disagree. A lot of people say, if DeSantis ends up being the nominee, they're not going to vote, or they won't vote for DeSantis, or they'll go third party. Or look, to me, if it's DeSantis, Biden, I'm backing DeSantis in a heartbeat. I mean, seriously, we cannot survive 4 more years of Joe Biden. I mean, we just can't. You can't. I mean, I'm sorry, you can't. Look, I don't think it's going to be much of an issue unless Trump has a health problem, unless they put him behind bars. He's up now by some polls, forget 38. Some polls now have him up 40, 45 points. And if DeSantis is not going to fire his campaign team, he's going to be in for a rough ride. So, I mean, last night, look, it was a debacle. There's just no getting around it. In fact, to show you how much of a debacle it is, no, really, it was Sandy that came up with this, but I'm like, wow. When you kind of phrase it like this, boy. So it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Kelly Financial Services. If you remember, Joe Biden, he was not able to hold a rally. So when he made his campaign announcement, to launch his presidential campaign, he did it in a video. Well, which do you think was worse? Biden's video, which announced the launch of his campaign, or DeSantis' campaign launch yesterday on Twitter? Which of the two do you think was worse? The Biden campaign launch video or DeSantis' launch yesterday on Twitter? Honestly, just, hey, look, between me and these 4 walls, I can't believe I'm saying this. I think DeSantis' launch was worse. Not for what he said, the content I loved. But the Biden video was clean. I mean, there were glitches. It was, professionally produced. It was released on time. You could hear what he was saying. People weren't talking over him. It was just, I'm sorry, as a piece of political propaganda, whatever you want to call it, political messaging, it was better. It just was. I can't believe I'm saying this. Old, decrepit, phony as he is, it actually is better than what happened yesterday. Now, when you phrase it like this, you're like, whoa, he's got to start firing. I'm telling you, fire, fire, fire. So, but I want to hear from you. Look, that's just me. What do you think was worse? The Biden campaign launch video for 2020 or yesterday's launch on Twitter by Ron DeSantis? You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhner. As always, you can vote via Twitter. Our handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, Kuhner. Okay, quick reset. I want to come back and take a lot more of your calls. Yesterday, huge disaster for DeSantis' team. They're claiming there was so much interest, it melted the servers. I don't believe it. Most people don't believe it. There were audio problems, technical issues. You could barely hear DeSantis at times. His audio was cut off. He was late. People were talking. You can hear DeSantis. You can hear them. It turned into an absolute nightmare. My question to you, is the DeSantis campaign over before it even begun, or can he recover? And when you listen to the content of what he's saying, do you like him over Trump, or are you still Trump all the way? 617-266-6868 is the number. Let's go to Captain Bob in Marblehead. Thanks for holding, Captain Bob, and welcome.
Yeah, Jeff, if I had to characterize last night's DeSantis, I would say it was a shakedown cruise that needs improvement. And some other comments. One of the 30 years experience in the Navy, the best ships and units that I've been involved with always had a skipper and an XO. XO is the executive officer, second in command, that complement each other. That they were on the same page, but in different personalities. But let me tell you, the best ships and units that I've been attached to always had that as the head leadership, and they were the most successful. Again, and I learned that really early on as a brand new ensign when I reported aboard, and I took over a unit in the Philippines during Vietnam. And thank God I had an XO that was completely different from me. I was an engineering business type, and he was a farmer actually from Illinois, but he had a perspective that was completely different from mine, and we made a great team, and I kept that sort of in my mind as I went through. Oh yeah,
through Captain Bob, you're making excellent. Look, yin and yang, right? And ice and fire. It works. I mean, in a way, they're diametrically opposite, but it works. You're completely right. Now, I'm just curious, Captain Bob. What do you think is DeSantis's main problem? Is that he doesn't have somebody who's telling him maybe what he doesn't want to hear, but he needs to hear?
Boss, as we would say in the Navy. Somebody that is nuts and bolts, that's been there before. One of the things that you learn real fast when you get a ship underway, you better have some redundancy. And redundancy means some backup in supplies and parts and whatever you need to get that ship in fighting condition, or a unit ashore. You better have some backup, and he didn't. And that was any ops boss would have had an AM. Again, that's not my my area. But you have a backup. Put it on AM. Have it telecast. Put it on a computer survey.
No, I hear you. No, exactly. Exactly. In other words, okay, if things go bad, if there's a technical glitch, what's the plan B? And they didn't have one. Now, I mean, luckily, eventually, it kind of worked itself out, kind of, sort of. But no, you're completely right. Now, look, to be fair, honestly, I mean, it's easy to pile on. Look, this is Elon Musk. This is Twitter. You think, well, if anybody knows what they're doing, it's them. And potentially you want to reach millions and millions and millions of people. So I understand the strategy behind it, the thinking behind it. But I mean, come on, guys. I mean, To me, this is more, it's a Twitter. To me, number one, I blame Twitter, obviously, Elon Musk. Your technology, Twitter space is definitely not ready. You want to talk about not being ready for prime time? It's not ready for prime time. That's number one. But no, it's the campaign team. This is now the campaign manager and the people who are running the campaign. I'd be like, guys, are you serious? This is amateur hour. Like, we're paying you for what exactly? Now, I'll bet you the best steak, Captain Bob. I guarantee it. Because I know this about DeSantis. He doesn't mind doing speeches. He does. I'm telling you, he does it in Florida all the time. And people clap. They like it. He starts pushing back on reporters. He's very good on his feet. He hits them with zingers. So if you were to say to him, hey, Ron, how do you want to do this? Come on, man. You're running for president. As I said earlier, this is your chance now to make a first impression on a national stage. What do you want to do? You want to do some Twitter thing with Elon Musk? Is that what you really want? Or do you want to have Casey, your wife, and your kids, and, the people who've been with you all these years, and some of the staff that have really helped you in the trenches, and you want to go in your hometown in front of your people, and you say, here I am, here's what I've done, here's what I want to do, here's where I stand, and this is what I'm going to do for the country. Now, I'm telling you, I know he would have said, I'd rather I want to hold a rally, man. I want to go up there and give a speech and showcase what we've done and what I plan to do. And frankly, I want the media to be there and ask me questions and I can beat up on them. Well, why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do it? Instead, to show you how much he's being controlled or scripted or these campaign consultants are getting in his head, they were going to do a big kickoff in his hometown. They canceled it because the geniuses said, no. Oh, you really want to be cutting edge? You really want to be cool? You want to be outside the box, Ron? We'll do it on Twitter Space with Elon at the Four Seasons in Miami. Well, now it just blew up in his face. Be you. If you're you, you'll be fine. If you have these consultants running your campaign, you're going to be in big trouble. Ask Jeb Bush. Ask Jeb Bush. It's becoming now almost like a Florida syndrome. Like you're a very good governor, and then you get to the national stage, and all of a sudden, it's just like, what, you don't know how to run a campaign anymore? Suddenly it's just you let the consultants, the consultants control everything? You just abandon all common sense? 617-266-6868 is the number. The countdown to iHeartRadio Access Day has begun, and you're in for some awesome deals. Deals you may never see again in your entire lifetime, so don't wait. Head to iHeartRadioAccessDay.com to register to receive reminders for when deals go live June 1st. Diane in Norwell. Thanks for holding, Diane, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff, for taking my call. I did try to call yesterday. I love you. I think you're great.
Thank you, Diane.
Just to touch upon Tony and Steve, the should-be caller of the week, Steve, I totally agree with them. Now, I listened to Susie yesterday about statesmanship and being a refined speaker, and all that is lovely. And although we don't want to forget who we are as a people, because we're good morally and all the rest, and we like to talk right, and we like to behave in a nice way. But given the stakes here that we may lose our country, I think we need to not forget about who we are as a people, but we might need to bend it a little just for the sake of the country. So I don't think that should be a reason to vote for somebody right now. As far as Trump goes, he may be uncolorful. He may have called some people some uncolorful names. However, he was dead on those people that he was talking about, and I couldn't agree more, but we'll just let that go. As far as Steve goes and Tony, you must ask yourself, why is DeSantis running? He's a young man. He doesn't need to run now. The reason to run now is he wants to be the man that beats the big guy, okay? He had to have known for to throw his hat in the ring, and this tells me everything I need to know about him, that we were one people behind Trump as a mega group, okay? He throws his hat in the ring, and now we're divided up. So if there's going to be battling between Trump and DeSantis, it will be his fault that this has happened. And he threw his hat in the ring knowing that he was putting in jeopardy the very existence of this country could be lost for good if it goes to the Democrats. And he did a bad thing. What he could have done was pull out everything he had to get behind Trump, and he would win. And he had a lot of influence. He could get a lot of other people like him to get behind Trump so that he would win. He could do that for Trump and for this country, but instead he put his own ego before this country. And that tells me everything I need to know. Now, as far as him trying to pick personnel people, well, obviously he's not very good at it, okay? So that gets rid of that point that Susie had about how good he is at picking people. And I like Susie. She's great. She's probably a really wonderful woman. But I have to disagree with her on this. And the fact that it was so glitchy yesterday and it was such a bad deliverance tells me everything I need to know. He's not ready.
Diane, I'm just curious. Did you see DeSantis's interview with Trey Gowdy on Fox?
I did not.
Okay, I'm going to play a little bit later, and I'd love to get your take on that. Maybe you can call me again or email me or whatever, but it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It was like night and day. It was night and day. And when you see the interview, you're like, wow, strong, very good on the issues, polished, extremely articulate. You could tell, look, people who know him say this. He's a wonk, a quote, a nerd, which is fine. He loves policy. He's enmeshed in policy. He loves policy, which, okay, he's a very serious guy. It's okay. That's how he is. That's his personality. But when you saw what he could do on Fox, no, I really can understand why people in Florida go, wow, we love him. He's a great governor. We love him. But then you see that Twitter launch and you're like, ay, 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 ay. And so I'm looking at this and we'll see. It's a long campaign, but if this is a sign of what's to come, I don't think DeSantis is going to last very long. Now he may end up endorsing Trump. We'll see what happens. But if this is a sign of what's to come, Diane, I wouldn't be worried if I were Trump. Again, he's got money and DeSantis can recover and, the summer is the summer and you got debates coming up in August and, we'll see. But that was unprofessional. What happened yesterday, unprofessional, unforgivable. If I'm running his campaign, if I was him, I'd be livid. I'd be livid. If I was his wife, I'd be livid. So, Diane, thank you very much for that call. No, the reason why I mentioned Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is good. Like, I don't care what anybody says. I'm sorry, but these are very good answers. He's very smart. He speaks extremely well. I could see why a MAGA supporter, really, I could, living in Florida, saying, Jeff, he's MAGA, but he's just so damn smart. He's so intelligent. He can destroy the media. He can destroy anybody in a debate. And, so I can see that. And he's clearly got a real mastery over the facts. He's also very disciplined. He's extremely disciplined. So, I know people who've met him and they met him for 2-3 hours and they go, Jeff, it was 3 hours nonstop policy. That's all this guy wants to talk about is policy. And he's got this military Navy background and they go, he runs the administration like a drill sergeant. And so he holds everybody accountable. Now, he's not the most likable guy. He's not a backslapping guy. The charisma, it's not there. It's just not there. It's not Trump. It's very different from Trump. Okay. Look, I've said this before. Calvin Coolidge was one of the best presidents we ever had. I'm just calling it the way I see it. Coolidge in the 1920s was a remarkable president. Serious. A wonk, very smart, very competent, very knowledgeable, very disciplined. DeSantis reminds me a little bit of, but no personality, or very little personality. But that's okay. And he had one of the most successful presidencies in the history of the United States. Liberals have deliberately underplayed Coolidge because his record was so strong and he was a conservative Republican. So I get the appeal of DeSantis. I really do. But, come on, man. We're not talking Florida now. You're talking, you want to be president of the United States. And when you're telling me that what you bring to the table is competence, effectiveness, discipline, it's not going to be a circus as he claims it was under Trump. It's not going to be fire this guy, fire that guy. It's not going to be tweeting at 3 a.m. It's going to be a well-run, well-oiled machine. Like, the Florida model. The least you can do is have a successful campaign launch. Now, he's hurting his own brand, or his people are hurting his own brand. So, if I were him, I'd say, listen, you better be very, very careful. Because you're at 19, 20 points, you could be down to 10 or 9 or 8 points very, very soon. And if that happens, it's over. I mean, it's over. Trump wins, we'll have the primary, but we might as well not have the primary. Because the only one now that has any kind of a chance of catching him is DeSantis. Everybody else is either there for a cabinet position, auditioning for VP, or if you're like Chris Christie and others, you're a paid assassin to do the bidding of the Democrats and the corrupt corporate media. In other words, you're a quisling. You're a collaborator. You're a Vichy Republican. You're just there to bleed them and attack them. Liz Cheney is there for that reason, and Chris Christie is there for that reason. And most likely Judas Mike Pence. So they're there to stick the knife into them. That's it. That's it. But in terms of a serious candidate, outside of Trump, DeSantis is the only one. Like, let's be honest. Now, again, I'm going to bare my soul to you like I'm in the confessional. I don't mind DeSantis challenging Trump, unlike many people, and I'll tell you why. God forbid if something happens to Trump, and I'm worried about him. I'm worried about his health. I'm worried about whether they're going to put him behind bars. I'm worried about literally his physical safety. I want someone who I believe can still carry the MAGA mantle. Someone who will still be there and push forward the MAGA conservative agenda. And of all the candidates I see up there, the only one is DeSantis. And that's why I say when you see the interview with Trey Gowdy, I'm going to play cuts, you'll be like, wow, that's Trump. Wow, that's almost exactly like Trump. My God, it's almost word for word. In other words, it's Trump's policies, Trump's policies, Trump's policies, Trump's policies. To the point that on social media, everybody was just saying, well, why don't you just be his VP? I mean, you're practically copying his entire agenda. So I like DeSantis because to me, he's the ultimate plan B. God forbid if something happens to Trump. Furthermore, if they put him behind bars, which is what they really want to do, I believe DeSantis is the only one that would pardon him. You can text us, by the way, 70470, 70470. As always, you can email the Kuhner Man. Really, I think this email in many ways says it all. It really does. First impressions matter. Jeff, like you said, you've got one chance to make a good first impression. In 2015, Trump made his epic descent down the escalator, and we still remark it to this day. But just imagine if Trump had tripped getting on the escalator. Then the mic stopped working, and then the lights went out. One mishap after another. It would have turned it into a big flop, and that would be all we would have remembered and talked about. That is a really good point. That is a really, really good point. Now, they're trying to spin it, and it's semi-working. I mean, most people don't buy it, but it's given them enough cover, which is they melted down the servers. In other words, hey, it wasn't a technical glitch. It wasn't that we messed up. It wasn't that we were sloppy or not prepared. No. So many people are just, whoa, they're jumping on the DeSantis bandwagon. They're so interested. They're so fascinating. They're so fascinated by DeSantis. Oh, tens and tens and tens of millions. It just...
Governor DeSantis, if you broke Twitter, my daughter and the Kardashians are going to be very upset with you. I don't know if that's what happened with Elon Musk or not. Maybe you just had a big audience.
We had a huge audience. It was the biggest they'd ever had. It did break the Twitter space. And so we're really excited with the enthusiasm. But ultimately, it's about the future of our country. Trey, I'm running to lead a great American comeback.
Now, I think it's spin. I think it's obvious. CYA, cover your you-know-what. And Trey Gowdy and Fox were more than helpful to do that and more than willing to do that. So he may get out of this. I think he will. Damaged, but he'll get out of it. But a couple more of these, he's done. I'm telling you, he's done. So whatever is wrong, they better fix it. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868 is the number. Let's go to Dan in Andover. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Dan.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Let me just say I'm a big Trump supporter. I watch and listen to you every day.
Dan, you got to get off speaker, please. Pick up your phone because it's echoing. We're starting.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, we're starting to sound like yesterday's campaign launch.
Yeah, I'm just really disappointed in your bias today, even though I support you. And I think this will all be forgotten in about 2 weeks. And I'm still going to vote for Trump, but I thought DeSantis did an incredible job yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, I do. The interview with Gowdy was excellent.
Oh, yeah. No. The Gowdy interview was out. No question. I thought it was superb. No, I thought... You mean you were happy with what happened with Twitter, the campaign launch?
It was a small glitch, Jeff. I think you're blowing it up. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. And like I said, I think your bias is showing, and it's difficult to listen to you today, to be honest. And I'm a big supporter of you. So I just wanted to let you know that.
So, and what you heard on Twitter, you liked? You thought he sound... The content, the message, you thought it was very good? It was very good, Dan?
I think it's similar to Trump, and I support Trump. So I don't know what you're really trying to, just to repeat, you sound very biased today towards Trump, and I'm disappointed. I think he's a great candidate. It was a small glitch that we'll forget about in 6 weeks. Why blow it up? I think he's the second best choice. If something happens to Trump, yeah. So I don't know why.
No, I agree. No, Dan, that's what I said. Well, look, that's why I'm a little upset with DeSantis because, look, I think he is the second best choice to Trump. I think there's no question. And honestly, Dan, as I said before, just before the break, God forbid if something happens to Trump, I want MAGA to continue. I want our agenda to continue. And I want DeSantis to fulfill the promises that he made yesterday because I think they'd be very good for the country. So it's not coming from a bad place. I swear to you, I give you my word of honor. Dan, I want a good race between DeSantis and Trump. I want everybody to know it's now a MAGA party. It's now a MAGA party. And you want to advance in the Republican Party, you want to have real power and clout, you have to now be a MAGA Republican. That we don't want rhinos anymore. We don't want these country club, Chamber of Commerce Republicans. That the globalists are over. We don't want them. So really, I wanted a very good campaign launch. I wanted it to be smooth, effective, and we could be talking about the issues. I'm just being honest with you, Dan. I'm not trying to hurt the guy. I'm really not. Did I lose Dan? Anyway, okay, Dan. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
I'm just saying I wish you didn't have this slant today, focusing on the negativity. I think it was a small glitch, just to repeat. I think it's the same message as Trump. Why not support the guy? I know you're voting Trump. I'm voting Trump if he's available. So why put this negative slant on a small Twitter glitch and blow it out of proportion? I'm very disappointed. It's too bad you did this. I think it's very negative. I don't think it helps us. And
well, Dan, to be fair, everybody's talking about it. I mean, it's not just me. Even DeSantis's people behind the scenes are not happy. It wasn't 2 or 3 glitches. It went on for 20 minutes? I mean, it was bad. Dan, it just was. I know he recovered and he was able to get his message out, but really, I have to say, it was unprofessional. It was amateur hour. And look, it hurt him. I think there's just no getting around it. It hurt him. Now, can he recover? No question. Do I want him to do better? Of course. I don't want the guy to, because think about it. If DeSantis drops out of the race, if something happens to Trump, God forbid, Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, seriously, Liz Cheney, Chris Christie, look at the names we're going to have left with. Look, I don't want Biden to win. Don't get me wrong. But if it's not Trump, at least let's have somebody that's really good. So I don't want the guy. Now, look, to be fair, I was going to do this anyway, but let's do it now. If you heard his content, and in particular, when he did his interview on Fox with Trey Gowdy, as I said earlier, it was like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Now, and that's the DeSantis that they should have showcased. That's why do a rally, man. I don't think it's that hard. You control the microphone, you control the stage, you control the forum, you control everything. And, better, and you use, you have the wife, you've got the children, you can have a beautiful prop. I mean, you got a story and a biography, sell it, man. So he goes on Trey Gowdy on Fox News. Now, I just want to play a couple cuts. And I'm telling you, it's pure 100% MAGA. I'm listening to this, I'm like, yeah, check. Yep, amen. Yep, amen. Yep, couldn't have said it better myself. Don't believe me? Listen now to this. So, DeSantis is asked, what will you do about the wall? What will you do about illegal immigration? Listen now to DeSantis' answer. Roll cut 16B. Mike.
We will construct the border wall. I think it's too big of a border to only rely on personnel. You need to have that physical wall. That wall would stop a lot of that illegal immigration. And if there's other points where they're trying to do, then that's where you put the personnel. So I want a full wall, and we will mobilize whatever resources we need, including the military, to get it done.
Wow. I was like, whoa, whoa. Now, you think Haley is going to say this, or Judas Pence, or Liz Cheney, or Chris Christie, or none of these other globalists would even come close to saying what he said. And he's not just saying, I want a full wall and, across much of the border. He's like, I'm going to send the military down there. I'm going to close and shut down and secure that border. I'm like, amen, brother. Yes. Now, more than that, he goes, I want to crack down also on illegal immigration and illegal immigrants in the United States. Roll cut 16A. Mike.
People coming illegally does not benefit, which I don't think it is, then we shouldn't do it. I think the legal immigration system needs to be geared, though, towards assimilating people. We used to do a pretty good job of that. Now, it's almost like we try to incentivize people to come and not want to assimilate into our country. So we're going to be very strong on the border. We'll finally get that done and take care of it, because Republicans have been asking about this for years and years and years. I can tell you, Trey, when I tell people I'm going to do something, I follow through. I'll use all the levers at my disposal to be able to get it done, and we will finally put this issue to bed once and for all.
I mean, there's not a word, there's not a comma that I can disagree with. I mean, just, yeah. Yeah, keep talking, Ron. Keep talking, baby. Again, now, just the reaction among many Trump supporters is like, well, that's almost word for word Trump. I'm like, good. Oh, good. Don't you want that? Good. In other words, you know, something happens to Trump, there he is. Nothing wrong. Or make him VP or whatever. It doesn't matter. Or 2028. In other words, this is MAGA conservatism. This is what we want. There's more. One of his big successes as governor, school choice. And it's really helped in particular minorities. It's one of the reasons why, frankly, got 60% of the Latino vote. He also peeled away a lot of black votes, African-American votes. He flipped Miami-Dade. He flipped a lot of these Democratic counties that were blue, 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 and he flipped them, and now they're red. Precisely because he's giving poorer parents or minority parents or others who've been held hostage by these public teachers unions the option to send their children to the school of their choice. And he's saying, if I become president, we're going to have universal school choice. I'm going to do it not just in Florida. I'm going to do it in Chicago. I'm going to do it in Boston. I'm going to do it in New York, in Baltimore, in LA. To minorities, good schools is your way out. To everybody, good schools is the way out of poverty. Listen now to DeSantis when he's talking about the NAACP travel advisory, and he's saying, right, you're telling me that my people of color shouldn't come to Florida? You have no idea what our record is. It is phenomenal. Roll cut 17, Mike.
It's a typical political stunt. First of all, Florida's crime rate's at a 50-year low. Compare that to places like Chicago or Baltimore. I don't hear the NAACP talking about that. If you look at our education system, we have school choice. That's one of the reasons why our black students perform as high as just about any black students in the country. We're second and third in fourth grade math and reading, respectively, because parents have options. You go to Baltimore or Chicago, some of these kids are more likely to get shot than to actually have a high-quality education. I don't hear the NAACP talking about that.
Now, one of the things that also came out very strong, DeSantis said, I will blow up the deep state. I will dismantle the administrative state. On day one, Christopher Wray, gone. Fired. The DOJ, I will completely depoliticize them. I will come in and I will clean house. Roll cut 15, Mike.
What would you do to change or fix both of those entities? What are you looking for in an attorney general? And would you keep Chris Wray as the director of the FBI?
No, I would not keep Chris Wray as director of the FBI. There'd be a new one on day one. I think that's very important. In terms of an attorney general, you need someone that's got a really strong backbone. You need somebody that knows if you're going in there and you're taking care of business, the Washington Post is not going to like you. New York Times is not going to like you. You're going to get attacked by CNN, and you got to wear that as a badge of honor. You can't try to please polite society, because otherwise you'll just get captured by the institution itself. And I think the DOJ and FBI have lost their way. I think that they've been weaponized against Americans who think like me and you, and I think that they become very partisan.
I can't. What is there? I mean, yeah. Who can disagree with this? And more. Hold on, more. He goes right up. This is against Bill Barr. This is against all of these rhinos that keep saying, oh, but it's so independent. The FBI, the Justice Department, you can't do anything. That would be judicial interference. Listen to DeSantis saying poppycock, claptrap, nonsense. They're accountable to the president, and I will rein them in. Roll cut 15A, Mike.
Republican presidents have accepted the canard that the DOJ and FBI are, quote, independent. They are not independent agencies. They are part of the executive branch. They answer to the elected president of the United States. So as president, you have a responsibility to be involved in holding those agencies accountable, clearing out people who are not doing the job, and making sure that they're doing the people's business and they're not abusing their authority.
He wants to dismantle the deep state, fire Christopher Wray, school choice, wage a war on woke ideology. He's going to curb inflation. He's going to make us energy independent. He's going to build the wall, secure the border, and push a pro-America immigration system. I'm looking at this and I'm like, Trump, 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 Trump. On the issues, on many policies, there's almost no difference between them. What say you? 617-266-6868 is the number. Jim in Andover. Thanks for holding, Jim, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Good morning.
Hi, Jim.
It definitely was a little bit of a glitch as far as the rollout, but I'll be honest with you. I think Trump makes a bigger mistake every day by not being on Twitter, by sticking only to Truth Social. And I'm sure there's financial implications, and, he's part owner of all that. But if we want to say DeSantis is making a mistake, we got to kind of say Trump is making a mistake not getting his message continually out on Twitter with the massive following that he once had there.
Well, that's a very good point. Oh, I think you're right. I think he should be on Twitter. I don't know why. I mean, it's a great weapon. It's a great tool to get his points, to get his message across. I know he likes Truth Social because it's his and he owns it, but the audience, the reach is much smaller on Truth Social than it is on Twitter. No question about it. Jim, what do you make of what happened yesterday? Do you think DeSantis can recover? And do you think ultimately in a couple weeks everybody will have forgotten this?
Oh, I definitely do. If he gives 2 or 3 more interviews like the one that he gave on Fox yesterday, I, for the first time yesterday, actually watched Fox since Tucker Carlson's been gone, just to see DeSantis. It's the only time that I actually, have watched it since. I could not be on Twitter at 6 o'clock. I don't think a lot of working people can be on Twitter at 6 o'clock to listen to that. So I don't know anything really about the glitch. I didn't hear it, but I did see him on Fox, and I think people will forget about that really quickly. I don't disagree that whoever advised him to roll out that way probably either needs to be let go or demoted. But I don't think anything like that's going to hurt him in the long run. And as far as, should he be Trump's VP? I love Trump, and he has my vote. But the only thing about Trump, I hate the fact that he can only be a one-term president, which means 18 months into the administration, he actually becomes a lame duck. No matter who it is, not the fact that it's Trump, but you're a lame duck 18 months into it. Everyone is already starting to run for the next cycle. So, that's my only take as far as that. Listen, in a perfect world, if it lined up, yes, I would love him to be Trump's VP and then take over and have 12 straight years.
Bingo.
I just don't know if
that's my feeling exactly. Jim, that's exactly. I'd love to see 12 years of MAGA rule. Trump 4, DeSantis 8. Whether it can happen, we shall see. Jim, thank you very much for that call. Now, I do want to make one other super quick point. Many texters are making this, and many people are emailing me. Jeff, did you ever consider maybe it was sabotage? In other words, because the left, I mean, they are terrified of DeSantis. They already, and Vanity Fair, big piece yesterday, already now calling him a far-right fascist. In fact, their argument is the only reason why that he did an interview with Elon Musk, this is what Vanity Fair wrote, was because David Duke was not available. So already they're starting with this DeSantis is the second coming of Hitler. So the left hates him. They revile him. They're terrified of DeSantis because they're worried they don't want him and they don't want Trump. Those are the two people they don't want. And they're willing to say and do anything to stop them. And so what many of you in Kuhner country are saying is, Jeff, I wouldn't be shocked that the Democrats or the rhinos sabotaged it to make DeSantis look bad. She was, many of you said, I wouldn't put anything beyond these people. In other words, they blew up his campaign launch. I mean, we'll see. I mean, there's no evidence, but when you're dealing with these kind of thugs, anything is possible. 617-266-6868. How much time left, Mike? Okay. 30 seconds. I'll take calls on the other side. Let me ask you, what did you make of the Twitter campaign launch and the failure to launch? Did you see the interview on Fox? What do you think? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, DeSantis yesterday, it's now 100% official. He is a candidate for president in 2024. What say you? Andy in Newton. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. It's really great to talk to you. I've been a listener since the very beginning, and so I've been waiting a decade to say this to you. I love you in a non-sexual and, might I add, non-satanic way.
Thank you, Andy.
Yes,
welcome, my friend. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. So, I was listening on the Twitter feed, and it was a disaster. I don't think it'll be a very big deal. I don't think we'll all be talking about it in a week. I think you have to realize that people consume their media very differently. And I think another point to recognize is that Trump's announcement several months ago was not the greatest either. It certainly wasn't the golden staircase of 2015. It was kind of low energy. So I don't think people are going to be talking about this. What it made me think of, my immediate thoughts when I heard the problems they were having with Twitter was, if Elon is going to host Tucker Carlson 5 days a week, they better get working on the technology to support that type of show, right? Because I think it's they've got to iron some things out, but thank God we have Elon, and thank God we have Twitter now. And I know it's not perfect, but it's really the only thing we have at this point that's major. As far as DeSantis and Trump, a disclaimer. So I did vote for Trump twice. The second time with much less trepidation than the first, because I thought overall, despite all of the Trump derangement syndrome of the media and the Democrats, he did a good job. Really the most effective president we've had since Reagan, right? But I think they relate to people very differently. Trump relates to people on a visceral, emotional level, and DeSantis relates to people on an intellectual level. And I think that those of us who are looking to DeSantis are looking at a couple of things. Number one, we say who is maybe more electable in a general election, and I think DeSantis has a better shot because he is quote unquote normal. I think a lot of people are just exhausted by Trump, and to be frank, the childishness sort of coming across like he's an egomaniac. The insulting other conservatives, and I know there are a lot of rhinos and globalists, and the bulk of the right has moved past that in the past 10 years. But still, I think it's important to realize. I remember when I think it was he was talking about McCain, and we don't want McCain voters, or maybe it was Carrie Lake. Well, you do want McCain voters. You need McCain voters. You can't win with just the MAGA base, right? Because that's not going to add up. So I just think that's most of us who have fallen into the DeSantis camp, and I know this includes Dr. Grace. Last time I heard her speak about it, we just think he's more electable. Plus, he's also, a lot younger, and he could do 8 years. There's so much work that needs to be done to straighten this country out, because everything really is been just disrupted. From the left's long march through the institutions, media, academia, it's the justice system. We're really pinned down, and so I think those of us who go with DeSantis think he just has, probably a better shot in a general election. But here's the thing: I'm trying to figure out what DeSantis is thinking. He's a super smart guy, as you said. And yeah, he doesn't have the charisma that Trump has, but he's sharp and he's tough. And yeah, he's a nerd, but he's also a former member of the U.S. Navy and a baseball player, an athlete at Yale University. So I think he has a plan. And I don't know exactly what it is. I want to know what you think.
I think this is his plan. And by the way, very good call, Andy. Really, really good call. And thank you very much. Look, very thoughtful call. Look, I think his plan is very simple. He's really running for two reasons. Now, you may disagree with his reasons, but I'm just going to give you his two reasons. Number one, I think he does believe in much, if not most, of the MAGA agenda. And I think you've seen that in Florida. He's passed bills on illegal immigration. He's waged a war against woke ideology. He wants to encourage as much energy independence and domestic energy production in Florida as possible. So if you look at him on issue after issue after issue, I think he shares a lot of the MAGA agenda. I think there's no question. He believes that the problem with Trump, it's not Trumpism, it's Trump himself. He believes that in the end, Trump, whether you agree or disagree, is now becoming too toxic. He's got too much baggage. And that ultimately, it's not his agenda. His agenda is phenomenal. His policies are phenomenal. That's why he's almost copying Trump on the agenda and the policies. What he's saying is, you're not going to have the drama. You're not going to have the tweets at 3 a.m. You're not going to have the infighting and the back and forth. And so in other words, what he's saying is, I'm going to be much more disciplined. You're not going to see the chaos, the disorganization, the bickering. He goes, all of that is going to be gone. I'm going to give you MAGA with military style discipline. I'm going to rack up achievement after achievement, accomplishment after accomplishment. And I think number two, so in other words, personnel. I am no drama DeSantis. I will give you Trumpism without Trump. The drama of Trump. He thinks that appeal is going to put him over the top. The second one, and I think don't underestimate this, I think a lot of people think Trump's going to go to jail because the left wants to put him in jail. And DeSantis is saying, I will pick up the mantle. 617-266-6868 is the number. It's almost time for Access Day on June 1st. That means huge savings from the brands you know and love and once-in-a-lifetime giveaways and experiences from iHeartRadio. So go to iHeartRadioAccessDay.com now to register to receive reminders from when deals go live. Okay, DeSantis makes it official. What do you make of the problems regarding the launch? And did you see his interview on Fox later? To me, I thought the interview was superb. The launch, not so much. So I just want to play one more cut, go right back to the phone lines. DeSantis is asked point blank, why? Why are you running? You're a young man. Even Trey Gowdy mentioned it. He goes, you're not even 45 years old. What's the rush? Why now? Why this election? Listen to DeSantis' response. Roll cut 11, Mike.
We know the country's on the wrong track. We see it with our eyes. We feel it in our bones. We see the border being overrun. We see crime infesting the cities. We see the federal government making it more difficult for families to make ends meet. And we have a president who is a listless vessel, not energetic, and not dealing with the key challenges that are facing our country. But it does not have to be this way. Our decline as a country is not inevitable. It is a choice. And I think we can choose a better pathway.
And in particular, this is the analogy that he used. He compared what's happening now under Biden, and I think he's quite right on this, to the late 1970s under Jimmy Carter. You have high inflation, high interest rates, an economy now about to go into recession. A sense of malaise is now afflicting the entire country. We are clearly on the defensive on the world stage. In other words, America is in retreat. America is in decline. And he said that opened the way for Ronald Reagan. It opened the way now for a new vision, a conservative ruling agenda. And he believes he could be, in many ways, Ronald Reagan 2.0, at least when it comes to policy. Listen now to DeSantis. Roll cut 12, Mike.
Well, why now? I think it's because the country's going in the wrong direction. If we have another 4 years of the Biden administration, I think some of the damage is going to be irreversible. I think we have an opportunity now, kind of like the late 1970s when Jimmy Carter was president, to really move the country in a much stronger direction and really bring a lot of bold leadership to bear.
So, what say you? 617-266-6868. Ed in Maryland. Thanks for holding, Ed, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Ed.
I probably have Trump fatigue too, like a lot of people have had. I mean, I've been up and down with this guy. I'm ticked off about the poison shots, like I think everybody should be. But you know what? We're looking down the barrel of World War III and a Great Depression. So I got to do it. I got to be in Trump's camp all the way. There's just no question at all. It's not even up for debate.
You know, I love the way you phrased it. We're looking down the barrel of World War III and a Great Depression, and we're pretty much there. We're very close. We're very close. So he can do his mean tweets at 3 a.m. I don't care if he feuds with Whoopi Goldberg or, whatever. Whatever gets him going, I don't care. Just save this country. That's all that matters. Ed, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. I mean, I don't want to be a broken record, but I'm going to be honest with you like I'm in the confessional. Trump number 1, DeSantis number 2, everybody else, to me, you're not even in the conversation. No, to save our country, Nikki Haley can't do it. Tim Scott can't. Well, he's a nice man. Don't get me wrong. Tim Scott, great story, nice man, likable man. But no, for the crisis times that we live in, no. Mike Pence, forget about it. Chris Christie, oh my God, don't even mention. Liz Cheney, please, don't even mention them. So it's Trump 1, DeSantis 2. Everything else, it's just you're blowing smoke. That's my honest opinion. Now, very, very quickly, the debt ceiling talks, we may have a default. I mean, I'll talk about it more tomorrow. But this is incredible. It is now going to the brink. Apparently, my news feed is blowing up. And McCarthy's now told people, go home. Go home for the Memorial Day recess. So we may actually have a default. And if that doesn't lead to a Great Depression, it may lead to a Great Recession at a minimum. So believe me, if they blow this economy sky high, they're going to be begging for Trump because it'll be Biden's default. So what I love about DeSantis, and you can't take this away from him, his record in Florida speaks for itself. As a governor, as a leader, he is very competent, very professional, and he succeeds. There's no question. So would I feel comfortable with him in the Oval Office? No question. Would I feel the country's in good hands? No question. Would I think he would get a lot done? No question. But to me, the man of the hour, the man of the moment right now is Trump. I'm just bearing my soul. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you. It's now official. He announced yesterday. He then did an interview on Fox, on energy, on the border, on immigration, on crime, on taxes, on the military, on fighting woke ideology, on abortion. He is MAGA all the way. Is DeSantis the man, or do you believe Trump is the man? 617-266-6868 is the number. And now the war between Trump and DeSantis escalates. Trump ridiculed and mocked DeSantis for his campaign launch failure. Do you fear a bloodbath, a civil war in the Republican Party? And is that now the only way the Democrats can win? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I just want to quickly clarify. So they are continuing to negotiate, and they will negotiate over the weekend over the debt ceiling. However, McCarthy has now said they're going to do some more votes today, but it looks like there's no deal. At least in the short term, there's no deal. So I'm just going by what the media is reporting. They now say that McCarthy has told members of Congress, especially House Republicans, you can go home for the Memorial Day weekend. Now, be ready to come back within 24 hours, but they're going to continue to negotiate over the weekend. Monday, as you know, is Memorial Day, so they cannot be in session, and they have to have a deal by June 1st, or else we'll start defaulting. So they're really, I mean, you want to talk about cutting it close. It is right up to the brink. Now, we'll see what happens, but as things stand right now, odds are now higher than they've ever been of a possible default. A Biden default, which will trigger a recession. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, super quick. Listen now to DeSantis. He hit the nail on the head when it came to inflation, saying you want to tame inflation, you've got to lower the price of energy. Oil, natural gas, what you pay at the pump, it affects everything. And how do you do that? Drill, baby, drill. You increase domestic energy production. And then he took a shot at the Federal Reserve, rightly saying, stop printing trillions of dollars. You're going to drive us to Weimar, Germany. And so, as he put it, if I'm president, you're going to have a stable dollar. You're going to have massive domestic energy independence, and inflation, we will grind it to a halt. Roll cut 13, Mike.
Of course the overspending is driving inflation. I mean, if you go back to March of 2020, you've seen massive amounts of debt added. You've seen the Federal Reserve print trillions and trillions of dollars. Anybody knew at the time, and people like our friend Thomas Massey were screaming from the rooftops at the time, that it was going to lead to persistent inflation. So you need to spend less money. You also need to expand domestic energy production. Energy costs contribute to inflation. We have an abundance of resources here that this president doesn't want to use. So we will reverse Biden's energy policies very quickly. But we also need a Federal Reserve that's going to focus on maintaining a stable dollar. They should not be the economic central planner for our country. They're not accountable to anybody. They're not elected by anybody. And yet their printing of money has really thrust us into this. They said there wouldn't be inflation, and yet here we are. Now they've been hiking interest rates, and that hurts the economy. So we need a Fed focused on a stable dollar, and don't worry about trying to manipulate the rest of the economy.
I mean, I'm watching, I'm just nodding my head. I'm like, yeah, Ron, keep on preaching, baby. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Steve in Boston. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Jeff, hope you're doing well. I just wanted to say that I really don't care if it's DeSantis or Trump on the ticket. I'm going to use my efforts to make sure that whoever wins in 2024 is anti-globalist, and the only way to do that is I'm registering as a Democrat, and I am donating money for RFK Jr. He's anti-globalist. All we need is him on the ticket, and then I'm voting for Trump or DeSantis. I don't care, but what's more important than either one of them is getting RFK Jr. on that ticket. He is anti-globalist, and he's the only anti-globalist person with a D next to their name. So that is categorically more important than Trump or DeSantis. What do you think?
Well, that's fascinating. And I got to tell you, a lot of people agree with you. A lot of people, even in MAGA, in conservatives, America First conservatives. And if I were Biden, and you can see now the bottom is starting to fall out because RFK Jr. is now starting to creep up to 30% support. 30% support. Media blackout, the elites against him, being ridiculed, mocked as a fringe candidate. If they talk about him, they just mock him. And they're basically not even talking about him. And he's just going, ticking up. And he's now almost at 30 points, 30 percentage points. So, and, in Massachusetts, many Kuhner Country listeners have told me, Jeff, Mass, just because of the way the political layout of the land is, it doesn't really have that much clout within the Republican Party. But if you're an independent, you can vote in the Democrat primary. And that's where we can really damage Biden. Because if we throw our votes behind RFK Jr. and RFK pulls off a huge upset in Massachusetts, that really wounds and bleeds Biden. And even if RFK doesn't win the nomination, I know you want him to win, but even if he doesn't win, he will really hurt Biden. So a lot of people have been emailing, texting, saying, Jeff, you're not going to believe this, but I'm actually going to be voting in the Democratic primary, and I want RFK. And with RFK, we can send a message to Biden and send a message to the establishment.
What playing checkers does for us, and this is a chess move, and if we decide that we're not going to play chess, well, let's expect the same results, because it's over. It's over. This is our last opportunity. So if you got to fill out a piece of paper and cast a vote for an anti-globalist on the other side in a state that you're never going to turn anyway, then why not?
Steve, really good call. I'm telling you, best, I know. Jeff, how many times are you going to say it? Best audience in the business. 617-266-6868 is the number. Ronnie in Boston. Thanks for holding, Ronnie, and welcome.
Hey, thank you very much, Jeff, and good morning to Kuhner Country. Listening to this, Jeff, my whole feeling about the whole thing can get distilled down into a pretty simple metaphor. Ron DeSantis is the Led Zeppelin cover band, and Trump is Led Zeppelin. And look at the last two concerts that the Led Zeppelin cover band has had. His concert at Twitter was a disaster, and his other concert, he went to the most despised arena in the MAGA movement, the Fox News arena, and he sat down with a shameless opportunists like Trey Gowdy that MAGA also doesn't like. And the Led Zeppelin cover band's roadies are all never Trumpers and rhinos. So, Ron DeSantis can get out there and he can lip sync the exact same answers as the lead singer of the real Led Zeppelin. And look, you can go to that concert, Jeff, with a blindfold on and with your eyes closed. It sounds like Led Zeppelin, but the minute you open your eyes, you're smacked right back down to reality, and the idea of like people calling in and like I hear it is, yeah, I really like the cover band a lot more than the actual band. And it's like when I saw Led Zeppelin live in concert at the CNN town hall, that was a concert. And Trump was so masterful, so funny, so lucid, so in control of his game that these people that call up and say, yeah, Trump is so erratic. He's so, I just don't know what to do. Like, I just don't know what these people are looking at, Jeff. I really, really don't.
Ronnie, I'm just curious. A lot of Trump supporters are saying what DeSantis is now doing, he's essentially plagiarizing the Trump agenda, the Trump platform, Trump policies. As you put it, he's lip syncing Trump on the border, on immigration, on energy independence, on, you can just run across, on woke, on, you just name it. Essentially now, he's almost practically plagiarizing from Trump. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree with that. There would be no Ron DeSantis without Trump, just like there would be no Led Zeppelin cover bands without Led Zeppelin. I want the real thing. And to people that say, yeah, but Trump can be kind of unpredictable and blah, 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 that's exactly what we want. I mean, listen, Ron DeSantis is giving all the right answers in these clips, Jeff. But when you listen to it, that's exactly what he sounds like. He sounds like a lip syncer. He sounds like an imitator. And you can really hear, especially when you listen to as much talk radio as you do, I do in your audience, you can hear that Ron DeSantis is feeling so much pressure that he has never and will never make you laugh. He never says anything off the cuff because he's feeling so much pressure that all you're going to get is you're going to get that answer that you want to hear, but you're always going to get that answer much better from Trump. You're always going to get that fight much better from Trump. And don't get me wrong, if God forbid something happens with Trump, I'll happily vote for DeSantis. But I'm just very annoyed with Ron DeSantis at the timing of all this. He's a young guy. We all want to vote for him in 2028, but all he's doing is clouding the water in 2024. And real finally, Jeff, to one of your callers that said, Trump made the bigger mistake for not even going back to Twitter. Have you looked at the polls and seen that this guy's 40 points ahead? Have you seen what the viewership ratings were at Trump's CNN town hall? And he's not on Twitter and never posted anything about Twitter. Trump's bigger than all of it, Jeff. He's bigger than all of it.
Interesting. Ronnie, as always, I love it when you call in. Thank you so much. 617-266-6868. Okay, super quick. DeSantis was asked about Ukraine and China. On China, I got to say, he gave a great answer. I mean, it was almost like it's a Kuhner country answer. And he made some really interesting points. He said, when we were in a Cold War with the Soviet Union, did we ever intertwine our economy with theirs? No, never. So why are we doing that now with communist China? So he says, if I become president, I will disentangle us from China. Our supply chain, we're going to move it back to the United States. Manufacturing, industrial jobs, we're going to pull out of China. We are going to bring it back home. We're going to bring the factories back, the jobs back. In other words, our economic dependence on China will be over. I'm like, amen. I got to tell you, outside of Trump, no one else is saying this. No one. And then on Ukraine, he was asked. Now, I would have drilled more. To be honest, I thought Gowdy gave him, to me, I would have gone on about, well, you said something originally to Tucker Carlson, then you kind of backtracked. I would have pushed a little more, but he asked about Ukraine. Here is the answer DeSantis gave to Gowdy. Roll cut 19, Mike.
I'd like to see a settlement of this. I do not want to see a wider war. I think it's completely unknowable what it will look like in January of 2025. But I would not want to see the United States with our troops get enmeshed in a war in Russia or in Ukraine.
So, again, very close to the Trump position. So whether it's Ukraine, whether it's China, the border, illegal immigration, energy independence, just crime, wokeism, you just go issue after issue after issue. FBI, the deep state, the administrative state, dismantling it. It's Trump, 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 Trump. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let's put it this way. They agree on a hell of a lot more than what they disagree on. Bobby in Haverhill. Thanks for holding, Bobby, and welcome.
If we were dating, I would have thought you stood me up.
I would never do that, Bobby, I promise.
Okay. I have a little different view of all of this. I don't know what you or your audience would think, but I see DeSantis as Donald Trump's understudy. I think that he has looked at Donald Trump in a different way. He has really tried to become him for a long, long time. And I think that he really admires him. And of course, he's not Donald Trump, but he sees ways that Donald Trump has, and he's trying to, achieve the same things by saying the same things. The only problem is, now I have to say, if you, why wouldn't you elect, let's say, Mike Pence as Donald Trump's running mate?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Bobby?
Yeah, why, in other words, would you elect Mike Pence as Donald Trump's vice president?
No, I mean, I want nothing to do, after what he did to Trump, absolutely not. I want nothing to do with him.
What, his loyalty to Trump?
Well, yeah, because he betrayed Trump and he betrayed us.
Absolutely. I see a little bit of that in DeSantis. Everything is, Florida, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. If Donald Trump did the same thing, they'd say, what a bragger. He's a dictator. He's going to do this. The difference is now DeSantis is coming in with a different Speaker of the House also. Donald Trump had Nancy Pelosi. She was brutal to him. Brutal. Between Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they wouldn't let that man do anything. When DeSantis ever said, I want to finish that wall, oh, my God, my head boiled at that point because Donald Trump begged for money for that wall, and they didn't want to give it to him. They had other things in mind for that wall. Nancy Pelosi said, Donald Trump doesn't know anything. She belittled him. Yeah.
Oh, no, she obstructed him. She impeached him twice. Bobby, I want to ask you this, because I think you're onto something. I think in many ways he does admire Trump. I think you're right. I think he does mimic Trump. I think a lot of his agenda he clearly believes in. I think he looks at Trump and says, yeah, that's the future of the Republican Party. And so in a way, Trump is kind of his political mentor. My question to you is this. If that's the case, and I believe it is, why not wait till 2028? If, he's the master, you're the student, well, wait for the master. He's got one more run left in him. He's 70, going to be 78. So we know this is it. This is going to be his last kick at the can. Why not let him run and say, wink, wink, call him up. I'd like to be your vice president, maybe. Or if we can't, whatever, I would be your heir in 2028. Why is he running now? If he truly is his mentor, why would he do that? Or do you believe he's stabbing his mentor in the back? That he's being disloyal to his mentor?
You see, he waited. Now, just think about the way it's gone. Donald Trump was doing well, and then, this lashed out against him. Now it's the E.G. Carroll thing. Now they want to put him in jail. This is the time that DeSantis wants to hit on him. He reminds me of Matlock in a way at the end when he hits upon one thing and he wins his case. Donald Trump is down. He figures, aha, now he's at a low, and I can come in and push him out. That's how I see it. He waited for him to get this low. And in the meantime, he says everything that Donald Trump says, but people look at it in a different way because it isn't coming from Donald Trump. What's the matter with the American woman today? I don't like Trump. For what reason? I don't even know Donald Trump, but I know we had a better economy. I felt safer going to stores. I felt safer on the highways. When he stands up there and he speaks, he makes me feel proud to be an American. I'm loyal to him. I feel secure. I don't feel that way with DeSantis right now. I feel as though he has a little growing to do. And if I were Donald Trump and I came in, I would not pick him as my vice president. You know who I would pick? You know who I would pick?
Who?
Vivek.
Oh, Vivek Ramaswamy?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because I like what he says. I admire the fact he's had business. He gives you a plan and he follows through. And another thing he did that I like, he announced his candidacy at the beginning. All the way through, everybody's saying, oh, yeah, DeSantis is going to run. He's going to run. You know, they were giving feelers out all the way. He was already campaigning. But now he did it last night. Why did he wait so long to put his name in?
Well, I got to say, Bobby, Vivek, I think, would be a very good VP pick. I like Carrie Lake a lot. Don't get me wrong. I think there's others that would also be very strong. But, you know, Vivek Ramaswamy, and by the way, he's on the same page with Trump on issue after issue after issue. It's practically indistinguishable from Trump. He's very much a MAGA conservative, an America First conservative. Bobby, really good call. Thank you very much for that call. I appreciate it. Look, I think there's no question that there's an opportunity now. That clearly what DeSantis senses is with, you've got the E. Jean Carroll civil lawsuit that went against Trump. You've got Alvin Bragg, the indictment the trial's going to be in March. You've got the Georgia now, the DA in Georgia, in Fulton County, saying most likely Trump will be indicted in August. You've got the special counsel now saying they're probably going to try to indict Trump for Mar-a-Lago, the classified documents. So he's facing legal assaults from multiple fronts. And now there's potential blood in the water. So Trump may be vulnerable and legally vulnerable where they can put him behind bars. And so, you know, DeSantis is looking at this and saying, if I don't throw my hat in the ring and I wait till 2028, so I'm just going to stand back and watch a Nikki Haley or a Mike Pence or somebody else. So he's thinking, let me go in. And from his point of view is, what has he got to lose? If he loses to Trump, he ran a national campaign, got national exposure. He, you know, in his view, augmented his profile. He'll be ready if he runs again in 2028. And if Trump should stumble or be put behind bars or whatever, he goes, well, I'm the guy. I'm the next guy in line. So from DeSantis' calculation, he's got everything to gain and in many ways nothing to lose. That's why he threw his hat in the ring. I mean, that's the way I read it. Agree, disagree. Tony in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Tony, and welcome. We lost Tony. Okay. All right. Mike is telling me anyway, we got to go to break. So, okay, let me ask you. Trump versus DeSantis. It is now on. What did you make yesterday of his campaign launch or mislaunch? What did you make now of his answers that he's given to many issues? Almost really identical to Trump. Do you like that? Or do you feel like Ronnie, he's lip syncing? That he's almost plagiarizing from Trump, and you might as well go with the real thing. Go with Donald if you're really a MAGA Republican, or do you think DeSantis is a more articulate, polished, better version? 617-266-6868 is the number. Tony, we got him back. Tony in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Tony, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, thank you. I just want to throw a few figures out there. So that guy who called in and said the mega group is small. Well, I got 75 million strong, and another 17% that would have broke his way if they knew about the laptop. That's number one. Number two is what worries me about Ron is he's being advised and backed by the rhinos. Okay, it's Karl Rove, the Bushes, which is why he didn't go on Newsmax. That's why he went on Fox instead. Okay, so also with Trump, the lame duck issue is a joke because that gives him 4 years to get things done. So he's not worrying about a re-election. So I don't worry about that one bit at all. I'm worried about the rhinos advising because whatever Ron's saying means that he'll probably get 60% of it done because the rhinos won't allow all of it. Whereas Trump is going to get 100% done. So to me, I want to go with the guy who's going to get 100% done.
Well, and just to reinforce what you're saying, Tony, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but I'm with you. I like the fact that he's only got one term. Why? He's not worried about re-election. He's not worried about, well, I may offend these people or that, or let's just wait until the second term. And so I think this makes Trump even more dangerous, and I mean that in a good way, more dangerous to the regime, to the deep state, to the swamp, to Washington, D.C., to the cartel, to the ruling class. So he's going to be like, look, I got 4 years. I'm here to clean house. And I also like the fact, look, Trump has openly said it. What you're going to get with me in Washington, quote unquote, is retribution. And this is scaring the living daylights out of the establishment. So he's telling them, no. People are going to go to jail now. I'm going to, you fooled me once. You're not fooling me twice. So the deep state, I will break you. The CIA, I will break you. The FBI, I will clean house. So he's not falling for Mitch McConnell. He's not falling for Paul Ryan again. He knows exactly where all the bodies are buried. And he says, this time, I'm coming to drain all of it. And I'm taking no prisoners. And I've got 4 years to do it. And I don't have to worry whether I'll get reelected or not. So I'm going to be a man on a mission. I got to tell you, I think that makes him even more powerful. And do I believe he'll do it? You better believe it, he'll do it. In fact, that's what I told Grace last night. I go, look, the thing I know about Trump is that if he comes back to power, he's going to take the ruling class. He's going to take that swamp and he's going to put it over his knee and he's going to break him. And that's why they don't want him back. Because they know if he comes back, their days are numbered.
Put him away, but yet they're out there saying we want to run against him. It's a bunch of baloney.
I'm just curious, Tony. A lot of people are speculating that ultimately DeSantis and Trump, although they're really starting to go at each other now, at the right moment are going to come together and join forces. That in the end, they realize they can't split the MAGA movement. They can't split conservatives for either of them to politically prosper. Do you think either somehow, some way, when everything is said and done, that the two will make up and that they will unite in the general?
I'm hoping that happens because I think that would be the strongest ticket. And I also laugh at 500,000 people on Twitter. Well, geez, any given Trump rally, there's over 3 million people watching. And that's just a rally. So, give me a break with the 500,000 on Twitter, which half of them are probably journalists and liberals.
Tony, great call. Thank you for that call. Okay, to all of you, please listen to this. This is really the heart of what DeSantis was telling Fox News and Trey Gowdy. He's asked, if you become president of the United States, what is the first thing you're going to do, in other words, through an executive order? And what are your top 3 legislative priorities? In other words, you're now President DeSantis. You've just been sworn in. What are the top 3 things that you vow you will do no matter what? Listen to DeSantis' answer. Roll cut 14, Mike.
What are the first 3 things that you would try to do legislatively? So first thing you would do executive with your executive power, and then what would be your first 3 priorities legislatively?
So I think we said, the border, there's a lot you can do. Ripping out Biden's anti-American energy policies, which you probably could do most of that executive. You'll probably need to do some of that legislative as well. And then reconstitutionalizing the administrative state. We have a bureaucracy that's totally out of control. You need to be willing to use Article 2 power to bring the administrative state to heel. I will do that. I think Congress also has a role in reining in the abuses through both the power of the purse and through making sure that they're legislating clear and defined laws that aren't delegating huge swaths of power to unelected bureaucrats.
Finish the wall. Secure the border. 1. 2, energy independence. Drill, baby, drill. 3, dismantle the agencies, the federal administrative state, the FBI, the DOJ, the CIA. In other words, break the back of the swamp. That's what now. So, I mean, I'm just, whatever you think of, does he mean it? Does he not mean it? Is he, is he going to follow through? Does he have the experience to follow through? What he's vowing, what he's promising to do, it's Trump. It's MAGA. It's classic Trumpism. It's the border. It's energy. And it's the deep state. I'm just calling it the way I see it. So, to me, what's fascinating is the 2 leading candidates in the race on the big issues agree. And what that show, and anyone else who disagrees with them, the rhinos and the globalists, are in small single digits. It's our party. I know, there's a vision now, they're fighting and they're back and forth, but when you think about it, philosophically, politically, ideologically, it's our party. It's now completely our party. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree. Victor in Maryland. Thanks for holding, Victor, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, USA. You are now a national treasure.
Thank you, Victor.
I have a potpourri of topics. I love Steve's idea. I remember Rush Limbaugh pulling this back and told everybody to vote for Hillary to keep Obama out. Unfortunately, it didn't work. In the state of Maryland, you either have to be a Democrat or a Republican to vote in the primary. I want to vote in the primary, so I registered as a Republican. Number 2, I love Trump's rallies. He makes me really feel good. I love the way he ad-libs, goes off and starts telling stories. He reminds me of Gene Shepard when he did his show on a New York radio station back in the 60s. And he did a book called In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. And Trump does a great job of ad-libbing. And I loved it when he did that story about the snake, where this woman brought a snake in, and she came home from work. The snake was revived from the cold. And instead of giving thanks, he bit her. And she said, "Why did you bite me now? I know I'm going to die." And the snake says, "Shut up, silly woman. You knew I was a snake when you brought me in."
Well, Victor, let me ask you this. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you believe DeSantis is a snake? Is that what you're implying?
Trump was talking about the illegal aliens and how devious they are. And I remember hearing that song in 1968. Al Wilson did the song. I got it in my collection. But it could mean a whole bunch of things. But like I said, Trump really tells a good story. And I'd like to see Ron DeSantis do a rally and see if he can go off script and make sense like Trump does.
Oh, interesting. So, Victor, I mean, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are you saying that in many ways DeSantis is too scripted, too disciplined, that he should ad-lib more, speak from the heart more, be more authentic, be more off the cuff, that this would humanize him, personalize him, make him more likable, make him more appealing? Do you believe that's what he should do?
It sounds like somebody has written a script for him and he's just reading it. There's no emotion in it or anything like that. With Trump, he talks from the heart. If he wants to expand on what is on the teleprompter, he'll say, "Oh, the wind blew the teleprompter, so let me ad-lib some more here," and he goes off for another 10, 15 minutes talking about all kinds of stuff. He's more of a human. DeSantis reminds me of Spock, extremely logical, and there's no room for going off the cuff.
Interesting. Victor, thank you very much for that call. Wow. The Spock. Is that what Trump should be? Should that be Trump's nickname for him? The Spock? 617-266-6868 is the number. Lisa in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Lisa, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Lisa?
I'm good. So I originally was on hold to say, basically, we need the bull in the china shop first, only term, because everybody, they'll get in and they'll govern for their second term. Trump was guilty of it. Number one, he thought that he would win his second term because he knew he had the backing of the country. But we won't get into that. The difference between DeSantis and Trump for me, and the reason why I flocked to Trump in the first place, was because Trump did not build his life's work and his resume to be president. Ron DeSantis, if you read his resume, every decision he's made in his life has led him to this day, right? So today's Ron Day, and yes, he's a fabulous governor, and I like Ron DeSantis. I think he's brilliant. I think he's educated. I think he's a good guy. He's doing a fabulous job in Florida, but I could govern Florida if I had an all-Republican cabinet too. So I don't give him the kudos that everybody else gives him for Florida, because he legitimately has all Republicans in his cabinet. He's governing one state. So if you were to give Trump what Ron has in Florida, if you were to remove Paul Ryan and all the rhinos his first 2 years, just think about for 1 second what this guy could have done on top of what he was able to do with everybody against him. So for me, Trump had no choice but to run. Why? Because he loved his country so much, because he saw that the politicians were liars. He saw that the government was being ran by just a few hundred people in D.C. And 25 years ago, when Oprah said, you talk like you want to be president someday, his answer was, only if I have to be. Like, he legitimately loved his life. But because he loves his country so much, he had no choice. Because what normal person as a billionaire would do what he's done and then come back to do it again? Where Ron feels he has no choice because he's done everything in his life to lead here. Ron is a politician. I love Trump because he is not. Do you understand?
Oh, I understand. I mean, crystal clear. I think, Lisa, you really, really made a sharp contrast between the two. What I want to ask you is this, Lisa. when you look at someone like Ron DeSantis, do you think he could eventually be Trump's successor? Or do you think he's just too much of a quote-unquote politician, that he's just too polished, too scripted, too packaged?
I do, because let's face it, there's never going to be another Trump. They're all going to be politicians, right? So Trump comes and he goes. That era is done. Everybody you get after that is a politician, for the most part. So, yeah, I mean, we'll end up with the Ron DeSantis. I have an issue with Ron, not because I don't think he's brilliant and would be a good president. I just don't think that his loyalty is where it should be. If you take yourself out as Ron DeSantis and you look at what they've done.
Lisa, can you hang on? I want Lisa to finish her thought and come right back. Okay, let's go right back to Lisa in New Hampshire. Lisa, you're making the argument Trump is the ultimate non-politician. You look at someone like Ron DeSantis, captain of the Yale baseball team, went to Harvard Law, became a Navy, joined the Navy, became a lawyer in the Navy, became a member of Congress, served 3 terms, then became the 2-term governor of Florida. It's almost as if his entire life, as you put it, was scripted to lead to this moment for him to run for president. Please pick up where you left off.
So I look at it like this. He would not be the governor today had he not got the backing of Trump. The reason why Trump turned on him was for one statement and one statement alone. When they asked him if he'd run for president, he said, I haven't decided yet. And Trump took that as the ultimate stab in the back, because his answer should have been absolutely, but after Trump gets his 4 more years. And he would have had the love of all the people who came out of the woodwork who never voted before but loved Trump. He would have had the love and respect of the whole state of Florida, because half is for DeSantis and the other half is for Trump. And I feel like he has a loyalty issue. Now, why did he play and wait until he announced? He's been campaigning for 7 months, right? 8 months. If it was about the country, Jeff, and he saw what they've done to Trump with all these cases and all this crap that they're doing to him, he would have stood up and said, you know what, guys, I was going to run. But the more I thought about it, I have to save my country. And I cannot condone what they are doing to this man. And anybody who's for me needs to get behind Trump. I would follow him anywhere had he done the right thing. He did not. I am a loyalist to a fault, and I find him to be Barack Obama. Barack Obama made one speech at the Boston Garden. It was not his turn. He was a junior senator. It was Hillary's turn. Clinton is who brought him there. And he stabbed Hillary in the back and ran. Now, why? Because they told him it was his time. Well, if you're so great, your time's any time. Right?
Oh, that's very interesting. I got to say, Lisa, really didn't quite look at it that way, but that's a very, very, very fascinating angle. Thank you very much for that call, Lisa. So, so Lisa believes, and I know many Trump supporters do, that ultimately Ron DeSantis should have said, Donald, it's not my time, it's your time. I'm going to back you, and then in 2028, I will run. Do you agree? Do you agree? Was this him running now? Is this an act of disloyalty to Trump? 617-266-6868. Kenny in Florida. Thanks for holding, Kenny, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning. Outstanding show.
Thank you, Kenny.
I just want to get a few points across. So I'll try to move quick. But on my main point, I told Sandy is that a lot of us we feel like we were Trump before Trump, and let me explain. And I don't mean any disrespect to Trump, because I may have heard him make a couple of arguments back in the 90s, and I probably remember going, wow, that guy would be a great president, and the listeners that know what I'm talking about, they know, it's like, wow, I haven't heard anybody say that, but, I was in the military. I was in Germany. I wasn't there long, but I found out from being there a while, the young people really didn't care at all that we were over there. The older people respected us, but I just felt like, I'm kind of wasting my time over here. You'll probably see where I'm going. It's like, why aren't you guys paying for your own protection? This was in the 80s, Jeff. Okay? My point there is that that's a Trumpian position. Okay, you take the wall. Now, that's totally Trump. I didn't even realize we really had a problem with the wall. That's me being naive. I wasn't keeping up with it, and nobody was talking about it. I'll give Trump 100,000% on that one. I wish the wall was better. I wish it was 50 feet high. But you know what? He's done a great job. My point is that a lot of us have a lot of the same positions as, before Trump. Why do I say that? DeSantis can be like that, too. He grew up that way, I feel like, in a lot of ways. I think 9/11, your last caller was saying, why is this guy a politician? Look at all the Navy SEALs now that are running in Congress. They were affected by 9/11. Okay, so my bottom line on DeSantis, I think he's running perfectly to be a VP spot. What he's got to do, don't insult Trump at all. They need to get a hold of Trump's people and say, just back off a little bit. And, I can slide in there. I got your back. I can do it. And and like you say, if Trump does get knocked down here, like you're saying, legally, then, DeSantis can just kind of jump in there at the last minute.
Well, Kenny, look, I got to say, I'm up against it, but look, you're making a very fascinating point. He has not insulted Trump. He has not attacked Trump. He doesn't even refer to him by name. So he's just like, here's what I did. Here's what I plan to do. You like me, don't like me. So in a way, it's the ultimate audition for the VP slot. I mean, I gotta say, and if he does really well, he may turn to Trump and say, look, I've done really well. You may have no choice. Make me your VP. So maybe that's the ultimate play. We shall see. I gotta go. Bye-bye.